keeper of the...
Keeper of the official recording this evening is Mr. Barrett. So. Maybe. I signed it. Yeah, I signed it last week. I'd like to call the July 16th Emmaus Borough Council meeting to order. Please rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Personal appeals, part 1. Anyone with a personal appeal, please step forward, sign in, state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes. Hearing none? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
You want to sign in, please?
I did.
Okay, and state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Kimberly Lowmaster, and I reside at 1049 Arch Street, located in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. I myself, along with other residents here tonight on Arch Street, are bringing concerns to the borough about the Verizon poles which are being placed on Arch Street in Emmaus. And what we're concerned about is we want to know if somebody from the borough gave Verizon the okay to put the poles there.
I know nothing. Jill from the E&G had called me at 4:30 this afternoon, and she informed me that this was happening, and I know nothing that they were putting the poles in there. This is between 10th and 11th on Arch, and all the utilities are all underground. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Nobody knows?
First I'm hearing of it.
First
Yeah.
as well? I will discuss this with Mr. Pepe in the morning. He is not here this evening, so I will
A lot will depend on the easement, and these easements go back a long time. But let's say it's just a general easement, it doesn't require underground, we might have some difficulty, we might have to use different methods of persuasion. Maybe our zoning ordinance may address it. I understand your concern, but I can't give you the answer because I didn't know about the problem until right now.
And that's why we're bringing this concern to you. We don't have a problem with Verizon, running their line. We just want it run underground. And the irony of the whole situation is that this doesn't benefit any of the residents of the community of Emmaus either, because we know we're not going to have Verizon here. So it's like a double-edged sword. We're going to have to look at the eyesore, but yet when we purchased all our properties on Arch Street, they're all brand new homes, and all the properties, all the wiring is all run underground. And then you have beautiful Rodale Park directly across from us, and then you're going to see these above-ground pole lines. I mean, that's what we're concerned
It would be
about.
odd for a developer who required everything to be underground to not have required that in his easement. We'll have to look at it, though. I can't tell you that off the top of my head.
Mr. Barrett.
So have they already started to put the poles in?
No, they haven't, and that's
They've
why
just
we're
brought them
coming
there
to
so
you
far.
now with this
Yeah.
concern, because we realized, once they start, they've got money invested in it, and we wanted to see what we could do before they even get to that point.
Mr. Barrett.
And you've confirmed that, have you spoken with any of the linemen there? Like, is it definitely Verizon? Or-
Yes, in
okay.
fact, the street's already been marked off. You can see where they're going to place.
Like the
three
one-call
poles.
marks and
Yes,
stuff? Okay.
there's white marks on Arch Street already.
Have you looked at your title? At your title search?
No, I haven't, sir.
Could I just suggest, it would, first of all, be a big help to us, but if you pull that, you should be able to see what, whenever I do a search, I always give people the easements, tell them where they are, and if there's a covenant that requires all underground utilities, I make sure that they're aware of that, because it enhances the value of their property. That should all be in your title report with your title insurance. All that should be together.
Unfortunately, where they're putting it is directly across from our property.
So
right
it's
on the
not
side.
in your development?
It is, directly across the street.
But it's not in your development, or it is?
It is.
It's just not on her property.
It's not on
across
my
the street,
property.
not on
Okay,
her
but if
property.
I understand that, but it would be very rare for them to have say underground for everybody across the street, not for you, and not for everyone. That would be very rare. So you probably have a covenant that says all utilities will be underground. And if that's the case, and all utilities will be underground, except for the fact that maybe Verizon has an old easement that may pre-exist your development, I don't know. Was the Verizon line there before?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, we'll have to look at it. What you're asking is a very technical and difficult question. I've had it come up before, and it requires a look at the development, the deeds, the easements.
Okay. Appreciate you looking into that, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's the name of your development?
There's really not a name. What are the numbers so
So how about a subdivision name? Was there?
It's Arch Street,
It's directly across from Rodale. And where they want to put the lines is on Rodale, right there by the park. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Anyone else with a personal appeal?
My name is Rick Zayas. I'm the president of the Main Street Partners. Actually, we have a communication from us this evening. And all we're doing is we're asking for a waiver for the fees for the Park Pavilion, the Lions Club Pavilion, on July 29th. We're going to have a clam fest, forgive me, that day. And we're just, a little early for crabs. And we're just asking if we could waive the fee for that day for us.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett, that's on your committee report?
And I know we had a conversation as well, and I said it was something that we should bring back to the committee. We did discuss it at the committee level and kind of reviewed where the protocol is starting to be established. And I think between the two of us, Brian was not there, he's also on the Parks and Rec Committee, felt that after we looked at previous occurrences, this falls into that no fee waiver segment. And we've tried, I think I explained to you on the phone too, we try to set a precedent of, all right, here are the things that do qualify for fee waivers and here are the things that don't. So
I have no problem, but if I don't ask, I can't.
Absolutely, and I encouraged you to ask. I said, I told you to write the letter, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was decided, no motion was made to waive it. If someone else on council feels differently, they can handle that now.
Rick, if I could just chime in, we've been very consistent on this. Just on weekends, that's when our rentals are, and if we start doing that, it's going to open up the floodgates.
That's okay. When I talked to Wes, we discussed it, it was the same, that's fine. But we decided we needed to ask, and if we didn't ask, we couldn't get the waiver, so. We do appreciate you guys looking at it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Anyone else with a personal appeal? Hearing none, moving on. For the record, Mr. Brown, Mr. Holtzafer, and Mr. Pepe will not be joining us this evening. Community minute. Any member of council have an item to bring forward for a community minute? Barrett?
I don't know if it's necessarily, yeah, I guess a community minute. Just even though Mr. Brown is not here, I just wanted to thank him for a wonderful presentation yesterday for the flagpole dedication yesterday. It was really nice, well attended. He was well prepared, moved right through the presentation. So even though he's not here, very nicely done.
Dr. Bonell?
I want to echo that also, and I think also for the flagpole, the Patisco family, as well as the dedication of the Pocket Park, which has been a long time coming over there. And I thank Mr. Brown, Mr. Clapper, and the Public Works, everyone who facilitated getting that done. It's been a while. It's been talked about a lot. It's finally got done. It had done by June 30th, and it was. And I think it's something that people in this community will. The other thing I wanted to note, if I can, is the Arts Commission Rain Barrel event. That project is going very well. It is raising awareness for art in the community, which is what the mission of the Arts Commission is. It's raising some fundraising money for us, and we'll be at the park for the July 21 event, Community Day event, to be the last bids. They will be taking on the rain barrels, and they dispersed to be in the community. They look great. There's one downstairs. We haven't seen any of them. On the way out tonight, go by the cashier's window, and you'll see one of them sitting there. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Langford?
Yeah, it's just more informational than anything. I just went for a run tonight on the South Mountain trailhead on the Borough property, the approximately 6/10 of a mile, that stone. I was surprised to see that another loop was added, coming from our parking lot from the compost side, from Klein's Lane. There's maybe another 1/10 of a mile that was looped around, and it connects to the current trail. Very neat, goes up into the woods, a little bit of a hill there. So everyone check it out. It's just another nice thing that was added.
Mr. Barrett?
Just because it came up, I was going to go a little bit further into that in our committee report, but that was, you saw the sign, the kiosk that is starting to be established there. That's through some help from Rodale. Once again, I mean, they were essentially what made the first trail possible, and they've again helped out to make this second little portion possible. And I think it's actually used fairly often. Almost every time I go on there, I at least end up passing one or two people at the same time, meaning that it's regularly used, especially as more people realize that it connects to the great trails that are all along South Mountain. So yeah, that trail will actually come a little bit better as it goes
I
along.
passed 3 people, and I saw a fawn come up out of the grass and take a couple steps. Looked like it was just born. That's how small it was.
Okay. Anybody else? Just a reminder, the August 2nd Budget, Finance, and Council meeting, or excuse me, August 6th Budget, Finance, and Council meeting are canceled. Special presentations, we have none this evening, which brings us to the reading of the minutes from the June 18th council meeting. Is there a motion to dispense with the formal reading of the minutes? Motion by Mr. Lavenberg, is there a second? Second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. Additions or corrections? Hearing none, motion to adopt is drafted. Motion by Dr. Waddell, second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 4 ayes, 1 opposed, 1 abstaining.
When
Mr.
abstaining, I
Lavenberg
wasn't here at the
abstaining.
meeting. I was on the beach.
You don't have to rub it in. Will you put that in writing, Mr. Lavenberg? Decision on bids, we have no bids this evening. Communications, we have several in our binders this evening. The first one is coming from Reverend David Schoen. He is requesting to have their block party again, which is scheduled for September 29th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I will refer this to staff and the mayor. The next item comes from Lilith Euler. Lilith is saying she is resigning from her position with the SEC, Special Entertainment Commission. However, she's still available and interested in volunteering and helping out. She just cannot commit the time that is necessary to be a member of the board. She joined the SEC assuming the position entailed more planning, brainstorming, etc. Had I known it required such commitments, I would not have accepted it. My time is already spent pretty thin between my husband, 4 kids, graduate school, and our lives together. I hope you understand that these things must take priority for me. Is there a motion to accept her resignation? Motion by Mr. Barrett. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? All those in favor? With 5 ayes. The next letter comes from Donald and Joyce Parks from Allentown. Dear Sir or Madam, as seniors, we've been coming to Emmaus Pool for years. We were never disruptive or ill-behaved. Even though we are from Allentown, we were glad to pay the extra charge of an out-of-Emmaus visitor, but now we can no longer afford to come there. I am 72 and my wife is 64. This is very disappointing for us, and we regret that you had to raise the prices to an affordable rate?
Yep.
Okay. We wish you would rethink this price increase, especially for seniors. I will refer this to Parks and Rec just to keep it on file. This letter comes from Brad Steigerwalt. I am writing in regards to the Valley of Allentown Scottish Rites Picnic being held in the Landis Arts Pavilion on Saturday, August 4th. We appreciate the opportunity to hold our event in your borough as we have for the past few years. We've made our reservations with the Office of Parks and Recreation. We'd like to have your permission to set up a moon bounce, cotton candy machine, snow machine, dunk tank in the area around the pavilion, the same way that these activities were arranged for our picnic last year. Mr. Barrett, I believe you had discussed this already at your committee and will be making a recommendation this evening.
Yeah, this actually, I think most of those things are things that we've already had come up, and they've pretty much become staff issues.
The only question I am raising is the liability insurance, whether
Yes.
or not that has been provided.
It has not, well, as of our meeting, it had not been provided, but Mr. Pepe was going to reach out to that organization to
Okay.
make sure that they had that. But that is a staff, we assign that to
Correct.
the staff, so.
The next letter comes from Jerry Madison. It's addressed to you, Wes. Mass Main Street Partners respectfully request a run-up fee waiver for the use of the Lions Club and North Pavilions for its clam bake scheduled for Saturday, July 29th. Clam bake is a fundraising event for the Main Street Partners, and as you can imagine, we are trying to keep costs and expenses as low as possible. As you had already indicated, this was discussed at your meeting.
Correct. And denied.
Thank you. The next item comes from Stephanie Allen, Niagara Bottling Company. We'll be holding an event in the park. This was referred to your committee as well, and I believe you had already discussed this, and we'll be making a recommendation this evening, Mr. Barrett.
That's correct, if you'd like me to take care of it. Basically, all that the purpose of this is because they're going to have either a band or a DJ.
Okay.
There are 2 dates, I think it's like, 8/4 and 8/11. And essentially, when we set up these forms, we just wanted to be aware of what's going on in the park. This is the notification. Once notification is granted, unless if we saw there was a reason to prohibit it, we do not need to take any official action because it is prohibited. It is a, yes, permitted. So
It's permitted.
Yes, it's prohibited.
The same question, I have the liability insurance. Is
They
she
don't
providing
need any,
that?
uh,
Or
That should.
you discussed that?
That would not
and
be
we're not-
necessary.
Okay. They're not
It's
having
only for
anything
something
out of the
that they
ordinary?
announce.
No, there's nothing that they're asking for or having.
No,
Thank you.
shouldn't. Okay.
The next item comes from Cub Scout Pack. They asked and they'd like to have the Pack Annual Water Rocket held out at Community Park on August 23rd. Mr. Barrett, this was referred to your committee.
I don't believe so. I don't think
No?
we've discussed
Okay.
this yet.
This is a new one that you're getting, just to review.
It doesn't even need to go through review because there's actually, there are no items on here that are prohibited.
Very good.
Do we just have to make sure that the field's available that day?
That wouldn't be through us, that would be through the main office.
That would be
So-
staff.
Just make sure that they check it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thursday evening, I think.
Yeah.
Football might start by then.
Could be.
I think it's August 23rd. Next item comes from Terry Madison, and this is in reference to the Crab Fest at the Community Park, September 9th. She is looking to erect 2 10-by-10 canopies, and this is scheduled for Sunday, September 9th. I will refer this to your committee, Mr. Barrett, only because of the canopy request. The next item also comes from Terry Madison, and it's in reference to the old-fashioned Christmas. It's to be held on Saturday, December 1st. And she is also requesting canopies and street closures, so I will refer this to Parks and Recreation Committee. Barrett. On the desk this evening, there was one request. This is for the mayor. It's a request for a block party from Sue Zacarda, and that would be August 12th from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. 539 Furnace Street.
That's the same as last year.
Okay. If you could do the proclamation, whatever you need to do. I did receive 2 letters from the unions, one from Teamsters 773 Secretarial, and the other one is from 773 Public Works. Teamsters looking to start their negotiations. So we did get communication from the other 2 unions as well. Does any member of council have an item under communication? Mr. Mayor? Any communications? No? Okay. For our engineer's report, we have no engineer this evening. Solicitor's report. Attorney Dimmock.
My report is contained in your packet, but I want to just highlight 1 or 2 things that aren't in the Main Street Partners Agreement and approved, and the President has signed it, so that is done. The other issue has I've been working on feverishly, but I was asked to, and you were to tell you to hold off on doing anything on it, and that's the trailhead agreement with the Conservancy. Staff was willing to approve it as written. I was not. There was a couple things. I already talked to their attorney. He agreed with me, made the changes. However, there is one change isn't as clear as I wanted, and I emailed him that today. The real issue is that it didn't describe who was to maintain that property in the future and provide for insurance. Those were the 2 issues that I really had. I find that easement agreements that don't clearly delineate who's got the maintenance responsibility usually end up costing a lot of money later on as you fight about it. And even though I realize it's just a trailhead, somebody's got to maintain it. So that's all I have. The rest is in my report.
As far as this agreement, is there a timeline? We don't have a meeting until the 20th of August, so.
I was told by his lawyer too that it wasn't, he has to run it by, I think it's the Department of, they're getting a grant for this, so they have to run this by the Department of Community Affairs or something like that. So any changes that are made go back through that.
Okay.
So I think that should be fine.
Sometime, okay. Mr. Barron, I'm going to ask that you put this on your agenda, just as a reminder, that we don't allow this to fall through the cracks.
I would make one comment to read, if you could, the Cintas memorandum that I attached. I think that pretty well lays out, I had input from everybody that was important on it, so pretty well lays out the situation.
Thank you. Unfinished business part 1. We have 2 ordinances up for second reading this evening. The first one is ordinance 1085, which is in reference to the shade tree ordinance. Dr. Waddell, this came out of your committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is ordinance 1085. It has been advertised and it is scheduled for second reading. Is there a motion to read ordinance 1085 in short title? Motion by Mr. Ladenburg, second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. This is ordinance 1085, an ordinance establishing a tree fund and authorizing the Emmaus Shade Tree Commission to collect money in lieu of requiring the replacement of trees. Dr. Waddell, did you want to talk to us about this at all?
I think the only thing that was an issue here was the actual amount, which we talked about. In this ordinance is $200. Now, one thing I wanted to be clear about, though, and I'll read this statement here, 4A. When the Commission grants a property owner's request to not plant a tree to replace a public tree, the property owner shall make a payment into the tree fund in the amount of $200. And Linda Dustin is of the Shade Tree Commission sent a pertinent email to Mr. Pepe. The same question we've talked about: is $200 enough? And the issue is, if we go to plant a tree somewhere else, $200 will probably buy the tree. Will it get it planted? I think that what we have here, and we all need to be aware of this, is when in the planting of the tree, it's probably going to have to be Public Works that plants the trees. It's not going to cover a new tree, but probably not the planting of the tree, is the way I read this. So just so we're all aware of that, and I think we all knew that, but that's pretty much what this comes down to. And that was the only the stumbling block in this was really the dollar amount. 450 initially proposed in this would have covered the cost of the tree as well as some of the planting. 200 will not, so just works so well. Other than that, I have no other comments on that.
Mr. Langberg?
I do want to point out that standards were incorporated into this that were not in here before.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Paragraph 3.
Paragraph 3 has standards, and I think, and thank you, Attorney Dimmons, for doing that. I think that's something we can use in the future as we move forward with these types of things, having something that's a measurable, quantifiable standard, something we can compare things to. Thank you.
Any further comments?
I do.
Motion to adopt ordinance 1085 as read. Motion by Mr. Barrett, second. Second by Dr. Riddell. Discussion? Mr. Langberg?
Yeah, in past committee meetings, I have made statements that I won't support this. I contributed to the wording of a lot of the ordinance and the dollar amount. I agree with lowering that from the 450. Although I'm going to change my vote and support this because in reality what it does is give a resident more options. Even though I don't support the Shade Tree Commission's government power of telling you where and where you can't plant a tree, if you can cut a tree down or not, if you have to replace a tree. I only support the Shade Tree Commission for sightline issues and safety issues as far as uprooting borough property. That's it. All the other issues, I think the private owner should be able to decide whether they want to put a tree or take a tree down. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? This is a roll call vote. Mr. Langberg?
Aye.
Mr. Barrett?
Aye.
Mr. Schuster?
Aye.
Dr. Riddell?
Aye.
Mrs. Gilbert votes aye. We have 5 ayes. Ordinance 1085 passes. Next item is ordinance 1086, an ordinance authorizing and establishing attorney fees. This is scheduled for second reading for this evening. Dr. Riddell, this also comes out of
Correct.
your committee. Is there a motion to read ordinance 1086 in short title? Motion by Dr. Riddell. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. Ordinance 1086, an ordinance authorizing and establishing attorney fees for collecting of municipal liens and tax liens and establishing the rate of interest. Dr. Riddell, did you want to update on this? I think there was no changes made for this.
Any changes from the last time?
I don't believe there
It's
was.
the same one. In essence, what it does, it moves, instead of us, when it's placed on a property, instead of us doing the collection fees, it moves to the attorney's office to do that, and we'll follow up on it and so on, and fees are charged to them. It really takes us out of that legal arena, so we don't have to do that. It's certainly more expensive to homeowners, that's very true, or to anyone who has a lien processed against them, but in the long run, it takes that issue out of our hands, and the time and effort that goes into that. I think I'll be better served actually doing it this way in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney Dimmons, anything you want to say about it?
I would just
I know you've
say
done it
that
before.
the Municipal Claims and Liens Act does allow you basically to shift the attorney's fees and a penalty of up to 10% to the homeowner who is delinquent. You have to understand that the people who pay their bills timely are, if you do your own in-house collection and everything on this, they're paying a portion of those fees. This way, everything, in accordance with the Act, by the way, is basically handled, as Dr. Liddell said, by counsel, just by the attorney. And so therefore, we would simply go ahead and collect it. The delinquent people then pay for the costs that they've incurred in not paying their bills at a timely fashion. It doesn't eliminate the opportunity for them to enter into agreements for periodic payments and things like that. It doesn't eliminate it. All it does is, and you have to do this, you have to set those fees, otherwise you have to eat them. So that's what this does. And also there's that new case that came down about 8 months ago now, says if you don't set the penalty rate, the statute says it can be as low as 0, it can be up to 10%, and the Commonwealth Court said if you don't set it, it's going to be 0. So So you're setting it at 10%, as every community that I'm aware of has done.
Thank you for the explanation. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 1086 as read? Motion by Dr. Waddell. Second by Mr. Ladenburg. Discussion. This is a roll call vote. Mr. Schuster.
Aye.
Dr. Waddell.
Aye.
Mr. Ladenburg.
Aye.
Mr. Barrett.
Aye.
Mrs. Gilbert votes aye. Ordinance 1086 passes. New business. We have nothing on the agenda under new business this evening. Unfinished business part 2 is our waterfowl ordinance. I see that is scheduled for reading August 20th.
Correct.
Items not on the agenda subject to Rule 9. Any member of council have an item that they wish to bring forward? Hearing none. Mayor's report. Mr. Mayor.
I don't really have anything, but I want to acknowledge too, Nate. He does a great job. I'll tell you, his enthusiasm that he has out there, and out at the park also, you know, on a Sunday or whenever they have the concert and he speaks, and he's great. So I'm real pleased with him. Love this.
Thank you. Committee reports. I have a request this evening. I'm going to ask for your indulgence here that I move part of the Public Safety Committee report forward that we can handle. Chief Faust is in the audience this evening. We have 2 issues that we do need to discuss, and I know he has other matters he needs to attend to this evening. So, Chief, why don't you come on up to the table? Council members, if you return to your binders to letters W, we'll start there this evening. We're only going to do this portion of the report. An issue has come up within the police department that the Public Safety Committee has discussed, and we recommended 3-0 to bring this item forward for council's consideration this evening. It's a non-budgeted item, but the issue deals with the firearms. The committee is recommending that we do purchase new firearms for the department. Mr. Pepe did a quite lengthy memo, and I hope all of you have had the opportunity to read it and understand, but Chief Faust is here to ask any questions that any of us may have.
Actually, Shane answered all the questions, so we're very well written.
It is very well written. Chief, would you just like to give us a recap?
Sure. Good afternoon, Madam President,
Good evening.
members of council, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Solicitor. We are on firearms?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We are at a crossroads with firearms in our department where we had budgeted for the replacement of firearms in the budget. Capital requests in the last 2 years, and those requests were denied. We're now at a crossroads whereby we had 4 malfunctions with firearms in the department. One of the more serious ones was while a recruit was attending training at a police academy. The gun malfunctioned, the firearms people called us, and of course we had to replace that weapon. The existing weapons are 13 years old. What they're in need of is a full refurbishment. They need to be reconditioned, as well as the night sights, which are required for night fire qualifications, also need full replacement. The cost of doing that, I believe the borough manager laid out in your memorandum, is approximately $400, a little bit more than half the cost of replacing the weapon with a new weapon. So essentially, the choice we have to make is do we recondition existing weapons and then do night sights on them, or do we purchase new weapons? I believe in my 27 years on the department, this would be about the 3rd time we're broaching the subject of replacing weapons. Certainly it would be my recommendation to purchase new weapons rather than recondition existing ones for some obvious reasons. I won't go into the details of firearms, but the fact that we had four firearms in the department malfunction, although controlled setting and on a range is one matter, but if that were to be a situation where you have an officer involved in a shooting, that would be a much more serious matter and would be problematic for us. So I read through the manager's report. It's consistent with what I shared with him. We asked our firearms personnel to get us 3 quotes. We were involved in the shooting of various weapons to determine the best feasibility for the department. You can see there that we're looking at a 1911 more military robust type of weapon, which would be a caliber of 45. We have a good trade-in value cost here of close to $300 per weapon, so the existing weapons would not be in the hands of anyone other than the person who is selling us the new weapons. They would be traded in, essentially. So there's no issue with disposing of existing weapons. The costs are there in front of you again. We evaluate the cost being a little bit more than half as much to recondition these weapons and put night sights on them versus the cost of new. Would be my recommendation tonight. Was contained in the report that council would approve this purchase. Again, we budgeted in 2011 and again in 2012 capital line items for the replacement of weapons. Of course, with the budget cuts that we were forced to do, this was a capital item that we kicked the can down the road, so to speak. Again, I don't think we want to continue to do that too much longer before we face something in an actual police environment or street situation.
Anyone have any questions for the chief?
No question, but I appreciate Sergeant Shant's preparation, and he really did his homework. You can see in the report here how much of a good deal he's gotten. Shane has mentioned in the report too, when he was borough manager of Berwick, he had to go through the process up there, and we're actually getting, I believe, the same gun for less than what they paid 2 years ago. Plus, we're getting more for the trade-in per gun also. So, according to him, this is once in a lifetime price of what Sergeant Shantz had negotiated. So, I appreciate him doing that.
Yeah, we're looking at a $1,000 weapon, priced down into the 700s. So with the trade-in amount number we got, it's an exceptional price for the borough. So we did well, and I think there's a lot of other departments who like to have these prices. But there are 3 quotes attached, as we generally do for these kind of purchases. You can see there that Atlantic Tactical is the low bid.
And I just want to mention too, it is an upgrade for the police department because they were currently using 40 caliber and it's now 45 caliber.
Okay.
And I believe, Chief, in the report it says that's what is standard for law enforcement today.
It may not necessarily be standard, but it's one of the areas that law enforcement is moving to. There's a couple of reasons for that. Primarily now, just to get ammunition, obviously the government provides ammunition to our military first, as they should. Second comes law enforcement, and then the person on the street tries to get ammo. It's not always easy to get. So 45 caliber ammo is pretty readily available. It's also got a little bit better stopping power. How do we know circumstances like that? When the officers are dispatching calls where they have to face wildlife that is either sick or injured, and they're forced to dispatch an animal. I think we can all reflect back, and 9mm was the chosen caliber for law enforcement many years back, and then we moved into the 40 caliber, and you see a lot of law enforcement moving now towards the 45 caliber. And again, because it's a military weapon, it tends to make sense for ammunition and also the replacement of parts and things of that nature.
Last thing, you have to get new holsters and pouches and
That's correct.
and because it's obviously a new size gun. The old holsters, is there any way that are they able to be sold or given somewhere else where they can still be used?
Atlantic Tactical may take them back. I don't know what kind of number they would give us on those, but they are purchasing the weapons back, so we don't have to face, the problem of how do we get rid of our existing weapons.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the chief? Dr. Riddell?
Just a question of what the final number is here. I'm looking at the page that right here.
Total purchase price?
Yes.
$16,789.70.
That's the final.
Yeah.
That's the final purchase
And then your
price.
quotes are attached to the back.
That's with the night sights?
That's what
It's
everything.
complete.
Yep.
That's the night sights.
The pistol comes with one.
It's
On the new guns, it comes in.
That's a separate item.
It's part of the weapon.
That's part of the weapon itself. Right. Thank you. That's right.
Our existing night sights are non-functional, so we would have to replace them because of the night fire requirement qualifications by some.
Any further questions? Mr. Rainbird?
I make a motion that we grant approval for the purchase of 21 officers at 7, do I need to read them all? Or just the total amount?
Just do the total purchase.
Make a motion that we grant the approval of $16,789.70 for the purchase of the service pistols, the non-uniform pistols, the holsters, the pouches, additional magazines, and also rifles, grips, and is that including, the guns are including the sight, the night sights?
Yes.
Okay, and
All inclusive.
so moved.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes.
Can I ask the chief one more question?
Certainly.
What
He's
is-
not dismissed yet, so.
What is the life expectancy of the new purchased guns?
I wouldn't want to go out on a limb and say that, but if I do calculate a little math here, my 27 years, again, this is the 3rd time around, so, you start to get up into 10, 12 years, you shoot 500, 800 rounds of ammunition a year out of it.
So maybe 10 years.
They tend to wear, 10 years is easily.
Thank you.
And again, with the 1911, it's more built better for the military. It's going to be a little bit more robust, we hope.
Dr. Riddell?
Of course, with approval tonight and moving forward, when do you see these weapons being in the hands of our armies?
Well, we have to go through a variety of things. First, obviously, we have to get them. I believe there's a timeline on the quotes like any bid, but the first thing that would happen is we have to get them, and each individual officer would have to qualify on the range through a Commonwealth course of fire before we would even implement them into the street. So there's going to be a delay in time, probably several months, until we put all the staff through those qualifications. Before we use them, they have to all be qualified on. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you. The next item that the chief is here for is letter AA in your binders. The committee is recommending that we lease computer server for the department. The chief has been having computer issues, to say the least. So, chief, if you want to talk to us about that as well.
Sure. Another capital project, again, we've been budgeting for. This one in particular, we budgeted, I believe, for the last 3 years in capital, and again, because of budget cuts, it wasn't funded. IT and computer equipment has become not a commodity anymore for law enforcement. It's a necessity. We have computers in our cars, we have computers at our workstations at work. We're connected to the Commonwealth, we're connected to the county 911 center, and we're connected to multiple other departments, and we share data. In order to do that, obviously, we have to keep up with our IT and computer equipment. We have a very aging server that the plan was, or at least my plan was 3 years ago, to start phasing out some of the department computers over the course of 2 to 3 years. And again, since we didn't fund them after a while, we had 5 or 6 hard drives crash. Our server has some Band-Aids on it, but it's in need of replacement. So our options are either we purchase a new server now, which is not a budgeted item, or we lease a server, which we're going to continually use historically over time. for the next 4 years, and we have some quotes here to do that. The advantage, I suppose, with leasing the computer, and this is, I'm bringing this to you from the IT experts, I'm certainly not one, is that we would have support on that server for the term of the 4-year lease. So anything that were to occur with it, anything that were to happen with it, we would get IT folks to come in and provide support for that. As well, as you can imagine, with the records that we have and connected to millions of others, we become responsible for the integrity of those records. So we just can't have IT folks from off the street come into the police department to protect our records. We use people who provide us with assurances that these records are safe, and obviously they cannot get out to the masses. We have to ensure that there's no hacking that can get through the department. So it takes a lot of equipment to ensure the privacy, the integrity of those records. And having said that, I'm certainly not the person to do that for you. I'm not trained in doing that, so I have to rely on the experts. Our existing server is, what it's causing is, it's causing shutdowns in the police cars, the patrol vehicles, as well as at the police department, at headquarters. So when an officer is reporting or he's taking information over his MDT, that's a mobile data terminal, that will shut down if you don't have the correct licensing worked out. If this server, being that it's aging and ailing, is causing a lot of hiccups and causing our personnel a lot of issues. So in order for us to improve that and to increase our speeds and things like that, and keep the officers online, which is paramount, this server is now a must. Again, it's not a commodity anymore. This is a piece of equipment that we have to use. So again, we looked at it, the manager and I looked at it, I had our IT people in the department look at it, and it seems to us that the best bang for our buck would be to lease the server, because in 5 years I'll be back here asking for a replacement for that one, because there will be more records and there will be more need for the computers.
Thank you. Mr. Lampley?
Can I make a motion?
If you're ready.
I make a motion that we grant the approval of an agreement with Integra One at the cost of $581.55 per month, and that would be for a lease.
Correct.
And that is a 4-year agreement?
Yes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Barrett. Discussion?
I just suggested that approval be subject to the solicitor's review of the lease. I'd like to look at it.
Do you have a problem?
So amended.
Thank you. Anyone else have any? Dr. Waddell?
Chief, you mentioned the license that you need, so X number of people can be on the computer.
Right.
What is the licensing, how does the licensing work out when we do a lease like this?
Licensing actually is what it is. You have several users, so as computers and software is what it is, we are required to purchase so many licenses in order to have access to those programs. So when you have officers on the street accessing records management, and you have administrative clerks at headquarters accessing that information, it requires a license for each user. So you don't buy one and then you put it out to the masses. You buy as many licenses as you may need to hit that server and get the information back. And that could be, again, officers in patrol cars reporting from the county. It could be inquiries to the Commonwealth for information. It could be administrative clerks entering things or searching for things. So what tends to happen is you get shut down depending upon how many licenses that you have or what you need. We got two things going on. We don't have enough licenses, and number two, the server is ailing and it's shutting down on us.
So with the proposed lease agreement that we're talking about tonight, what licensing comes with that?
We get additional licenses. We get up to 25 licenses, which is an increase from what we have now.
And Mr. Lampley?
Might I add also, If you purchase this outright, now the 4 years, we're paying a little over $2,000 more than if we purchase it outright, but that does not include the maintenance. And Shane mentioned in his memo that one visit from a maintenance company costs us $1,000 for 1 day visit. So 2 visits and you're already at what we're spending for 4 years. So it's definitely the way to go. And also at 4 years, you can just switch over to the next update and renew a new lease without the cost of purchasing a brand new system. So there's definitely advantages. And that was all laid out in our memorandum.
Dr. Widow?
Chief, have you talked to any other police departments that have done this as a lease agreement with Integra One? How are they doing?
There's a number of them, and in fact, departments our size now and larger have multiple servers. They don't have just one, because there's different records that we must keep in different places, and of course the state has mandates, the county has mandates, and so when we're sharing and exchanging this information, again, we're ultimately responsible for that. So many of the departments our size and larger are leasing, and again, probably multiple servers. And again, I'm not an IT expert, but I'd like to go to Councilman Schutz on this. He is. And he asked me a lot of questions I couldn't answer, and then I got the IT people there to help me, because this is difficult stuff. We have some people in the department that are well trained in this, pursuing additional education, but this is something that you got to stay on top of. Once you're down, you can't operate anymore. Thank you.
Anything further? We have a motion that's been properly seconded. All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
You are excused.
Chief, thank you to Jason Apgar and his work with this again.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go back to regular committee reports. Public Works, Mr. Reichenberg.
The committee met on July 5th. I don't think there's anything to take action on. Under my committee, it has the Alpine Street draft agreement, but I believe it was assigned to Wes's committee. But that's going to be on hold until we hear back from them. There's a few items on the minutes. I don't know if you need me to go through it. Nothing to take action on. As Shane mentioned, that the water meters, we're currently replacing water meters with electric water meters, electronic water meters where they can read them from the street. They don't have to go up to each house and read the numbers. They can do it from their vehicle. And I asked our borough manager how far we are in the borough, and he says 75% of our meters are now electronic. So Shane had mentioned there might be grant money coming available to maybe convert the rest of the borough. Cintas, the letter was addressed in Attorney Dimich, his memorandum, or his report. South 10th Street, the culvert is needing to be patched again. A small sinkhole is forming. It is now maybe the 6th or 7th time it's being filled. Jeff said he might have to open it up and fill it in. It's currently being looked at by our engineer, and we're looking to get a report on that, on the expense of repairing that. And that is all. Anybody have questions? Progress.
Thank you. Health, Sanitation, Conservation, Mr. Shubsted.
Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, July 20th at 3:45. I hope everybody had a chance to see the containers that we have downstairs. The only thing that's missing from them right now is the green lids. Right now we have just the sample one with the blue, so we should be able to finalize those at the Friday meeting. Other than that, I have progress.
Thank you. Parks Recreation, Mr. Barrett.
All right. A few items that require official action. We are nearing full capacity on a number of commissions, which is great. First one, we had an interview for the Parks and Rec Commission. Peter Gasper interviewed, and it was a 2-0 vote to recommend Peter Gasper to the Parks and Rec Commission with a term expiring 5/1/2015.
Place that in form of
Yes.
a motion? Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lavenberg. Discussion? All those in favor? 5 ayes. Those opposed? 1 abstaining? Mr. Barrett is abstaining.
Yes, I'm abstaining. I did a financial transaction with Peter in the last 2 years, so I'll put that right.
Thank you.
Next, we also had Terry Gasper, who was interested in the Special Entertainment Commission, where we definitely need people, so it was great to have an additional person showing interest. The committee was a 2-0 recommendation to approve Terry Gasper to the Special Entertainment Commission with a term expiring 6/7/2014, and I'll place that in the form of a motion.
Second by Mr. Lavenberg. Discussion? All those in favor? 4 ayes. Those opposed? 1 abstaining. Mr. Barrett is abstaining for reasons stated.
Correct.
Thank you.
The next is also to fill a position on the Special Entertainment Commission, and that's Paulette Lavenberg. It was a 2-0 vote. Mr. Lavenberg did state that he would be abstaining in this for obvious reasons. So I'll place that in the form of a motion to appoint Paulette Lavenberg to the Special Entertainment Commission with a term expiring 6/7/2013.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Schuster. Discussion? All those in favor? 4 ayes. Those opposed? 1 abstaining.
I'm abstaining because that's the girl I love.
Is that in the code?
Please put that in writing. I'll let
That was worth coming tonight.
Let's figure it out.
A few other items. If you'll look at letter U in your packet, as I believe was reported at our last meeting, we had a huge turnout for the Summer Parks series. We have 97 kids that signed up. In the past, we had averaged, I would say as the season went on, between 60 and 80 pretty consistently over the last, I think this is our 5th year. But we certainly had a spike. We had put a $25 rate on there, so I think that was a concern that maybe that would deter some. It obviously did not. Help to pay for the program. But due to its success, we do need to appoint 1 additional counselor. The ratios we certainly thought were a little bit high to have 97 kids and only 5 counselors there. So certainly not a bad idea to add a 6th position. So the first is to appoint Colin Farrell at a rate of $7.25. Place that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lavenberg. Discussion? All those in favor? With 5 ayes.
And the second is, if you read the memorandum, we did have a counselor that decided on the first day that he was not interested in doing the program, so we, in an emergency, appointed Mr. Pepe appointed a person on a temporary basis, Tyler Silfies, at a rate of $7.25. We'd now like to make that an official appointment. I'll place that in the form of a motion to appoint Tyler Silfies at a rate of $7.25 as Summer Parks Counselor.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Lavenberg. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes.
I don't think we have any other official action, but just a few notes. This Saturday is the Community Day. Starts at noon down at Community Park. A number of great things going on. There'll be some music, there'll be skateboard demos, martial arts demos, Martha Vines. We'll be doing story time along with some sidewalk art. Always great to check that out. There'll be bicycle demos at 5:30. There'll be the rain barrel auction. Is it 5:30? Like,
5:30 or 6, I think
Just
we're
before the
right
game.
at 6 o'clock, sometimes during the baseball game.
Right. So sometime just before the Old Timers baseball game, which seems to be the most popular item on that schedule. So hopefully not 105 degrees like it was last year. Anything below that will be just fine. And encourage anyone that's interested to come on out. It is free. Lots of fun things to do, especially for the families. So if you're interested, certainly come out for that. Also, one item that we did discuss, Mr. Legberg actually brought this idea. I believe both of your boys are on the, or all three kids on the rifle team at Emmaus.
All three.
And he noted that the current place that they are shooting is not going to have that facility available any longer, and thought that the idea of bringing this to the borough using the police range might be a great idea. It also may raise some funds. So that was discussed, nothing official decided. It is,
No, we have to take a motion to allow Shane to enter an agreement.
okay, you're right,
School district.
my mistake. Oh, okay, my mistake on that. But this does actually require official action, and it's strictly to allow Mr. Pepe to engage with the athletic director and the East Penn School District to pursue the idea of having the Emmaus High School rifle team shoot at the police facility. So I'll place that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? Dr. Waddell?
I saw there were some concerns about it. Have they all been resolved? Is that-
Well, and that's why I didn't initially think this was had official action. It's just to have the conversation. It's not to. It's so that Mr. Pepe can start to negotiate a number, basically.
I see in the notes, there's some good things that have to be taken care of before
Yes.
we really do this.
The process will be Shane will negotiate with the school district. There will be an agreement. It will come before council then, that agreement.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? With 4 ayes, those opposed, those abstaining.
I'm abstaining because all three of my kids are on the team.
Will you please put that in writing?
Yeah, on the third one.
And-
You writing a book tonight?
And you love them too?
Most of the time.
We won't go there.
They are teenagers, you know.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And then also, as was mentioned earlier, we'll be working on the waterfowl ordinance. We do have it to be advertised, but since there won't be a meeting at the first Monday of August, it'll come up on the August 20th meeting.
And you're reporting progress?
I am reporting progress, yes.
Thank you. Public safety, we do have a couple other items that we need to discuss. In your binders, there is, under X, Y, and Z, there is an application for membership to the fire department. And this would be for Derek Martino. And that would be contingent upon his passing a doctor's physical. The committee is recommending him as a member of the fire department. Mr. Barrett, will you make that motion to appoint him contingent upon passing a doctor's physical?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. Also, the chief is looking to appoint Gabriel McNabb as driver of truck 711 and 712, and Curtis Knaus for driver, operator of squad number 751. They have passed all the necessary training. I believe in your binders with their information this evening, the signature is missing under the actual training officer, but Mr. Pepe does in fact have all the required information and signatures on both of those individuals. So we do need a motion to appoint them as drivers. Mr. Barrett,
Yes, I'll make that motion.
is there a second? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? All those in favor? With 5 ayes. We had a request to consider a four-way stop at the intersection of North Street and 5th Street. That was referred to the traffic officer. We had a personal appeal from Mr. Carter, who is with us this evening, in reference to Borough Line Park and some of the issues that have been taking place out there at the park that the committee will be working on, and see if we can get that area taken care of when there's tournaments taking place. As you see in our notes, the committee is working on a tractor-trailer parking ordinance that would prohibit the parking of tractor-trailers on all borough streets, which we're working on. Mr. Ladenburg?
What is the timeline on that? Because I'm starting to see more tractor trailers pop up.
Actually, it's going to be scheduled for first reading August 20th.
Originally, you know, I was in support of allowing them to park, and because a lot of them were just truck owners that own their own truck and a truck. Now they're coming from out of town, and I'm noticing also, like along the cemetery, the curbs are being destroyed because the trucks hit them and they deteriorate from them hitting them. So I'm now in favor of banning trucks from parking in the borough just because they're causing damage. So I'd like to see it moved along.
It's something the committee has actually been working on since my first term. Yeah. It's been taking a long time to get to this point, but we will have an ordinance for you for consideration August 20th.
Yeah. I was just going to add, comment. I think it's finally there. I think
we're there. At this point, we're there.
Thank you.
Also, during our last meeting, we did meet in executive session to discuss a personnel matter. As a result of that executive session, the committee is recommending that we accept the resignation of Frederick J. Bainauer III as an auxiliary police officer. He worked out at the park, and he is resigning from that position. Is there a motion to accept his resignation? Mr. Barrett? Is there a second? Second by Dr. Waddell. Discussion? Mr. Lambert?
Will we need a replacement before the summer's out, or?
No, we have
just finish
quite
the summer out?
Yeah. No, actually, his resignation, I believe, was effective July 15th, I believe, in his letter.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't need to make a replacement.
Sure.
No, at this point, I believe the chief indicated there was no need to fill his vacancy at this point. Any further discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. If there's any questions dealing with the committee's report, we had quite a lengthy meeting. We actually didn't adjourn until almost 6 o'clock, so we went over a lot of items. For the record, the Public Safety Committee did meet in executive session this afternoon, and there was no official action taken from that meeting. So at this point, I will report. Yes, sir.
I ask a question. I think it comes under your committee. I apologize, I should have said something earlier. I had someone talk to me today about concerns about over the triangle and people in a fountain and skateboarding, grinding down the edges of the planters, and when it comes down to the signage, I know there's something in the kiosk there, but we don't really, it doesn't seem like we have enough signage there for enforcement purposes.
The rules and regulations are posted. It is just a matter of enforcement.
You know, every other place you go, there's no rollerblading, no skateboarding, stay out of the fountain, whatever it is.
Right.
I'm just
We'll look at that.
suggesting
We'll see what we can come up with.
Thank you.
We'll see if we can come up with something. Mr. Latham?
I want to agree with that. I drove by one time and there were like 4 kids in the pond or in the fountain with their swimsuits on, and it's just not something that we want. It's one thing to have your feet dangling in there, but to be actually in the pond or the fountain,
Right.
it's not good.
I have also been told that there was a female with a raft inside the fountain. So I don't know exactly what that was all about, but apparently she was having her picture taken while she was on a raft in the fountain.
Season pass of some sort.
Maybe we can make some money there. I don't know. No, we will work on it. Other than that, we will report progress. I believe I covered everything that we have this evening. Brings us to General Administration, Dr. Wendell.
Thank you, Madam President. Minutes from our meeting on June 27th are in the binder. I'll answer any questions you could have. The meeting for July 11 was canceled. We've already taken care of ordinance number 1085 and 1086. So there's no other action needed from the General Administration Committee, so I will report the progress.
Thank you. Budget and Finance. Mr. Schuster, how would you like to handle that report in Mr. Maltaker's absence?
In your binders, under, let me see, double D, I would like to read resolution 2012-19, resolved by Borough Council to authorize payment of the July 16th, 2012 bill list as follows. Bill list, $392,393.81. Payrolls 13 and 14, $266,103.23. Payroll taxes $86,081.50, for a total of $744,578.54. Done this 16th of July, 2012. I'd like to make a motion to approve the bill list.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Ladenburg. Discussion? All those in favor? We have 5 ayes. I believe that was the only item on the agenda for this evening.
Yep.
The Budget and Finance will report progress. Community Relations, Planning and Development. Does anyone have a report to give in Mr. Brown's absence? Dr. Widow?
Madam President, one item that I'll just note here under letter A, display of 2009 anniversary items and 1959 time capsule items. If on the way out this evening you want to go through the main lobby, you'll see 2 display cases that the Emmaus Arts Commission has put together with some very nice items from 1959 and 2009. What the remaining piece of this puzzle is there were a number of items to be framed, and those were discussed and agreed upon in the last week or so. We've given them to someone to take care of that, and they will be framed. And then so there'll be some movement of some of the items on the walls downstairs and get this finished hopefully in the next month or so. We'll actually get this taken care of, be able to check this one off. The display cases have some really nice items, and we'll take a look at them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any report in progress?
Progress.
Thank you. Ad hoc committee, Mr. Ballard.
Progress.
Thank you. Personal appeals part 2. Anyone with a personal appeal, please step forward, sign in, state your name and address for the record in your 5 minutes. Hearing none. Borough Manager's report. Mr. Pepe does have the significant revenue and expense items in your binders this evening. If you have any questions, I will forward them on to him. If not, President's business, I do need an executive session this evening to discuss contract negotiations and a personnel matter. I do not anticipate any action when we return. And I've got nothing further for President's business. So we are in recess at 8:15.